Hi everyone, how's it going? Yep, I'm back to wearing this again because my hair is officially grown enough to look a hot mess. So I'm just wearing this because, you know, I comb it over and over, but it needs a lot of TLC to bring it back to life. So with that in mind, I have to talk about something quite heavy, and that is the tragic case of Krystal Evans. Now, Krystal Evans was from, I believe she was from Georgia, Griffin, Georgia, yeah. And she was shot and killed by her estranged husband, Tom Mallory, outside a Spalding County courthouse in Georgia. So this is the article right here, and I'm going to read it through. So this is basically giving a rundown on everything that happened to Krystal Evans and, you know, and what her abusive ex-husband did. Krystal Evans, a Griffin woman who was shot and killed by her estranged husband Tom Mallory outside a Spalding County courthouse in Georgia, had been publicly calling him out for threatening her months prior to her death, yet received no protection from authorities. 2 people were shot outside the Spalding County courthouse on Friday. Marjorie Krystal Evans Mallory of Griffin, Georgia, was shot and killed by her estranged husband Tom Mallory after hearing in the courthouse regarding threats against her life. Police were called to the area following the shooting on South 6th Street near the Spalding County courthouse in Griffin, Georgia. Upon arriving on the scene, police found Krystal Evans suffering from gunshot wounds. She was pronounced dead on the scene. According to reports, Mallory fired several shots into Evans' vehicle while she was parked on the street following the court proceedings. He then fled and shot himself while being chased down by authorities. His condition is currently unknown. So I think this is her, and I think this is her estranged husband. Okay. On social media, friends identified the victim as Evans and revealed she was involved in a bitter legal battle with her estranged husband. Evans revealed herself in numerous social media posts that Mallory was cheating on her, with men no less, yet when she decided to leave, he couldn't handle it and started stalking and threatening her. So yeah, this is a message from her. Tom Mallory, go have your affairs and go with your man behind my back like you always do. Download, brother. Didn't want to stop talking to him when I found out. You are pathetic. Gay men behind my back. Boy, okay. Alright, so according to numerous posts on Facebook, Evans had been publicly calling out her ex-husband for stalking her and her family, yet had received no protection. Krystal Evans passed away due to her abusive husband Tom Mallory. He shot her right in front of the courthouse. Her and her family members asked Spalding County officers to escort her, and they refused. She warned the public multiple times about him and was ignored. I don't know if this sounds familiar, guys, but yeah, one post on Facebook read, the previous posts of Krystal Evans warning about her ex-husband also surfaced online following her death, showing her warning that he had threatened her life numerous times and was literally stalking her. One of her Facebook posts read, it's sad that I have to walk around terrified for my life and my children's. I know if something happens to me, please know who did it. This man has said numerous times that he's going to kill me. I am posting and trying to leave a paper trail. That's exactly what the fuck I do. This is exactly what the fuck I do. And this is exactly what every person who has been stalked, harassed, or abused, this is what we do. We leave a paper trail. We keep talking. Because if anything happens to us, and there is a failure to protect us, it goes back to the authorities and it goes back to the public. Do you understand what I'm saying? We always leave a paper trail no matter what. It's essential. Okay? This man is extremely dangerous. Leave me alone. All right, so that was her ex. In another post, Evans cried out that Mallory was stalking her children and mother in Griffin. Leave my children and my mother alone. There are pictures of you stalking them and harassing them. This is a lot for me, guys. This is a lot for me. Not gonna lie, this is pissing me off. This is really pissing me off because there's no reason, none, that a dangerous individual like him should have been ignored for months. There is no reason why this should have been ignored for months. What the fuck was everyone doing? Let me continue. And her last post, literally before she was killed, was calling on her ex to leave her alone. Oh, fuck, I think this is the day before. It says one day here. When was this reported? When was this article reported? So this was reported at 4:35 a.m. today, right? This was today. So this right here was yesterday. She wrote this. This poor woman typed this just yesterday. I'm heated. I'm fucking pissed off. I'm pissed off. Why is this happening to her? Dude, please leave me alone. It's over. Move on with your life, please, respectfully. She must have been terrified. Despite all these, Evans never received police protection. Several people on social media lambasted the judge, identified as Spalding County Judge Sam Parks, for failing to protect Evans, as he let Mallory go scot-free from the hearing and told him to turn himself in on Monday. Sorry, I need a second. Firearms trainer Marine Tori Branham. Krystal Evans and her abuser stood in front of the judge in Spalding County yesterday. The judge is Sam Parks. Instead of arresting him right there on the spot, he told him to come back on Monday and turn himself in. What the fuck is going on? I just don't get the logic and decision making. She lost her life outside the courthouse. You can watch right here in the video how bad it was. The judge needs to go. I'm not going to watch that. Many have vowed to fight for justice and a change to the system following her tragic demise, arguing domestic violence victims often receive little protection from the state. My classmate Krystal Evans had been politely asking her ex-husband, so basically this is going over the same details again. R.I.P. to Krystal Evans. Alright, so I'm royally angry at this. This is just absolutely wild. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just looking up now the crime ranking of domestic abuse for both the US and the UK. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I have a point to make about the domestic abuse. When last I heard about domestic abuse, in the UK, at the time it was the top crime in the UK. And in the US it might be much the same thing. Domestic abuse might be especially common in the US. And the reason why this is important is because I'm coming to a point with regards to how domestic abuse is so prevalent now. So first off, right, this is from my own experience with domestic abuse, okay? And now I haven't been domestically abused, but my mum was. Not by my dad, but by her partner. My mum was domestically abused. And the abuse was mostly emotional. From my understanding, Her partner never put his hands on her. I don't know though, because he readily put his hands on his kids. And if he was willing to put his hands on his kids and he left his ex with injuries, with fractures and things like that, I don't know to the extent how much my mum went through domestic abuse at the hands of that man. You know, because I know my mum and how she wasn't a pushover. And that's not to say that every woman who goes through domestic abuse is a pushover. In fact, many victims of domestic abuse are quite strong women. But having gone through abuse myself and having experienced domestic abuse, apparently 1 in 2 women go through domestic abuse in the UK, and in the US I can imagine it's even more common because you have even more people over there. So domestic abuse for me is one of those crimes on top of familial abuse. It is the most common type of abuse on this planet. It's the most common type of crime on this planet. And on top of that, it's probably the most unreported as well, because who is going to go to the police against their own family unless they're really, really made of tougher stuff? Who's going to go to the police about their own family, really and truly? So on top of everything else, domestic abuse is incredibly common. It's often unreported. And the further along you are on the marginalized pipeline, meaning the more marginalized you are as a demographic, is the less likely you are to be protected from familial and domestic abuse. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, ever since a certain event happened in 2020, people have been staying indoors more. And because people have been staying indoors more, even now people are not going out because it's too expensive to go out. People are staying indoors more. And as they're doing that, familial abuse has increased and domestic abuse has increased. Okay? That's a fact. Domestic abuse, all types of abuse that goes on in a home, domestic abuse has increased since 2020, at the very least. Because people are staying indoors more. They've been staying indoors more due to the event in 2020 that caused everybody to isolate themselves. So domestic abuse went up. On top of that, we had a rise in conservative politics, which didn't just affect the way everybody related to each other. It also affected the economy, because global trade ended up going down the fucking toilet because countries started to isolate themselves against one another, which made imports and exports particularly expensive. That trickles down to the cost of living. That trickles down to how people treat each other because of the cost of living. When poverty goes up, so do crimes. And domestic abuse is no different. So the other components of this is poverty. Because there is more isolation and more poverty, people are acting out more. And when they act out more, there's more violence and more crime. That's just the reality of the situation. And again, the rise of conservative values, it has people fighting amongst each other, and that also adds to it. That also adds to the degradation of relationships among family and in couples as well. Okay, so all of these factors come into play here with regards to the domestic abuse situation. I don't know if it's the third that I'm about to bring up, but I think it's the third that I'm about to bring up. We've got to talk about the weaponized frequencies again. I'm a broken record. Every single time I come on here, I talk about weaponized frequencies. And I talk about how much these weaponized frequencies are used in specific neighborhoods, and especially within neighborhoods with a high population of working class people or ethnic minorities or women. Okay? Weaponized frequencies or brain frequency modulation to affect the behavior and to create more violence is especially prevalent among working class communities. It's especially prevalent there. So yeah, gang stalking can contribute to domestic violence, but from a wider level, it's more about the weaponized frequencies rather than anything community-based. Because you have to remember, even though gang stalking does have an effect on wider society, the people actually being gang stalked, like myself, who are aware that they're being gang stalked, we make up a very small part of the population. Very, very small. So when we're talking about weaponized frequencies, influence and impact on people, we're talking specifically about the technology that we use. We're talking specifically about brain frequency modulation, LRAD devices, which are more prevalent in specific communities, like I said, with working class people, with people of, you know, people that are largely ethnic minorities. Do you understand what I mean? So some certain places that are working class, that have a lot of diversity in it, are specifically used as training grounds for these types of weapons and for these types of brain frequency manipulations. And if I'm going to be real with you, I have to be real with you. Not all targeted individuals are domestic abuse victims. Many of us are. Again, I'm not one, because I've never been in a relationship where a man is, you know, I've never been in a relationship long enough for a man to be extremely abusive to me. That's never happened to me before. So, you know, I've been abused in other ways, but like when it comes to like being domestically abused in a long-term situation, when it comes to being stalked, when it comes to being like, I've never had that from relationships. I've actually most likely had that from neighbors and friends, the stalking shit. I've never had that from lovers or anything like that. So the point that I was trying to make is that not all TIs are domestic abuse victims. Some of them are domestic abuse perpetrators, in particular men. Men are already angry, okay? Women get angry too, but like there are a lot of women who have out of control emotions, who are balls of nerves and anxiety, and who do like women perps do stupid fucking things and say stupid fucking things. Yes, they do. But when you're combining frequency modulation, frequency manipulation with the technology that we use, that affects everyone, but that especially brings out increased sexual and physical violence among the male population. The truth of the matter is that not every male TI is going to be a victim of domestic abuse. Some of them are going to be perpetrators. This shit is entirely by design, though. It's entirely by design. So whilst I will say that every abuser has to take responsibility for their fucking actions, and I'm not here to sit here and mollycoddle abusive people, the truth of the matter is that abusers can be pawns just as much as the victims of abuse can. And realizing that it actually protects the victims rather than allowing the perpetrators to continue to get away with abuse. So the frequency manipulation, the weaponized frequencies in our technology, they increase aggression, they increase bad feelings, they increase bad emotions. Which is why sometimes when I wake up, I don't even use the phone, I don't even use the laptop, because it just pisses people off, it makes people angry. I've got these people upstairs who use technology all the time. They're fucking balls of anger all the fucking time. Do you understand what I mean? And always need somebody to take it out on. So for me, it's the technology, it's the weaponized frequencies from technology, and it's also frequency manipulation from LRAD, long range acoustic devices. So those things right there can contribute greatly to the domestic abuse problem. And then we've got to get into lack of policing. Now, for me, there's a direct correlation between heavier policing going on in more diverse communities and the fact that domestic abuse happens more in diverse communities. There's a correlation there. Because if heavy policing was actually working, why is there so much, why are specific communities seemingly more susceptible to being unprotected in domestic abuse situations? If heavy policing is working in black communities, in black neighborhoods or working class neighborhoods, Why are so many black women, working class women and brown women walking around here unprotected from domestic abuse? Like, if the heavy police was working, why is there so much domestic abuse happening? And on top of that, the policing is becoming more privatized, which means they're becoming increasingly less interested in actually protecting people. In fact, they were never interested in protecting people. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Those police officers were there to protect trade and possessions. When they were originally, first formed, police were first formed. They were formed to protect possessions and trade and rich people's shit. That's why they were actually created. They weren't created to protect people. So the police already didn't protect people like that. And then on top of that, increasingly, because of all the events that I talked about, including the wars, I have to include the wars when it comes to the economic discussion. With all of that considered, resources towards civil service and civil service, including police, have been dwindling fast. In fact, during austerity, the police force in this country was one of the hardest hit. And I'd be willing to bet it was the same in America. I'd be willing to bet the police are on their knees in terms of resources, in terms of funding. A lot of people have been talking about defunding the police for a long time, but I'd be willing to bet that the police are on their knees in terms of public funding, and that most of the funding that they get now is privatized, just like this country. I'd be willing to bet any money that policing is mostly privatized over there in the US, just like it is here. And because it's privatized, the police force would be actually more racist, not less. It'll protect black women even less, not more. Because privatization, it prioritizes set hierarchies in order to get people to spend their money and work till they die. So I'd be willing to bet, because of the privatization of the police force, because how else are the police going to get funding? During austerity 2020's event, the wars, no less than 2 major wars that Britain has been involved in and the US have been involved in, where are they going to get the money from except from billion-dollar corporations? Where else are they going to get the money to fund it? So you've got increasingly privatized police officers that are decreasing their interest in public safety and in protecting the public. That's another thing that contributes to the domestic abuse problem. And then you've got to get into intelligence services. Intelligence services know that there's domestic abuse going on. But why are they increasing their hold on the public? Why are they increasing their spying on the public? Do you seriously think it's to protect people? No, it's to protect money. What was the first thing you heard about when you heard about DHS collecting information and things like that? Benefit fraud. What's benefit fraud about? Money. It was never about domestic abuse. It was never about protecting children from trafficking or abuse. It was never about any of that. It was always about fucking money. So you've got intelligence services that are not only not solving the problem, they're contributing to it by putting people on watch lists. Like I said, TIs make up a very more number of the population, but we are growing. And among those TIs are not just abuse victims, but also abusers as well. So that, like, not only are our intelligence services not helping at all, they're contributing to the problem deliberately. And everything that I'm talking about is to depopulize everybody, to depopulize the population enough to where we are manageable again. Because if we grow too much, then we might start becoming intelligent and we might start taking over and we might start thinking, okay, well, maybe we don't need these people in power. We're in an age of decline. People are being depopulated. That's why everything is happening the way it's happening. And where domestic abuse is concerned, The terror of domestic abuse, the purpose of it is to keep women primarily in line. Because the way this world works, it's dependent upon the paid labor of men, the underpaid labor of men, by the way, even though even though men are mostly paid for their labor, they're still fucking underpaid. Let's be real. It's the underpaid labor of men and the unpaid labor of women. That's what this society is dependent on. That's what it has always been dependent on. And the more we terrorize women by being given examples of domestic abuse and domestic violence, that leaves us unprotected, and especially black women, supposedly the mules of the world. That's how we're treated. That's to keep us in line. And that's to basically say, you're not safe and we're not going to protect you. You're here to do what we want you to do. You're not here to be protected. This is for all women. In fact, nobody's protected on this planet, but women especially, and black women the least. You will have no protection. You exist only to be unpaid labor. Don't get that shit twisted. All of these things combined, everything that I've talked about, contributes greatly to the domestic abuse problem. And domestic abuse, truth be told, when it comes to the depopulation of the planet, it's just another horseman. It's just another horseman. And from that example of that little racist white girl that I talked about on my Facebook, you can go on my Facebook to see what I said about her. From that little racist girl being groomed, grown adults knowing completely about what was going on and doing nothing, to this black woman in Georgia being let down only yesterday, being shot to death only yesterday by an abusive ex that she tried to like, please stay away from me. Nobody helped her. She was gunned to death. From a black woman that was gunned to death, from that little white girl who was groomed and nobody helped her to the point where she ended her life. Nobody on this planet is protected, but especially not women, and especially not black women. Nobody is here to be protected. Women are here to be unpaid labor, and that's it. That is it. And a lot of people are saying that, just like they did with Sonia Massey, they've turned Krystal Evans into another protect black women example. No, like people are calling this a systemic failure. People are calling Krystal Evans's tragic end as a systemic failure. What angers me, it's not that people are calling it a systemic failure. What angers me is that Krystal Evans's death, just like that little racist white girl's death, those were not systemic failures. If women are dying from domestic abuse at this time in 2024, it's not a systemic failure. If people are dying from violent crimes and increased hate crimes, that's not a systemic failure. None of this was a systemic failure. That is the system working exactly as it was meant to. And people keep minimizing it. They keep compartmentalizing it to make it easier for themselves. And it doesn't help. People want to call this a systemic failure because they want to have hope. People will literally prioritize feeling hopeful over the lives of women that could have been saved. Like Sonia Massey. This whole shit about her being paranoid schizophrenia, I don't know whether she was paranoid schizophrenic or not. What I do know is that it doesn't disprove the fact that she was a TI. And yet that is all people talk about. All people talk about is her mental illness and how she was failed. She was meant to be failed. And it's not even just because of her TI status. Or her even being a black woman. And you know how racism is prevalent in this world and has always been prevalent. It wasn't even just because of her being a black woman. It's simply because that's the way it was supposed to work. That's the way the system was supposed to work. You protect certain people at certain times. Sonia Massey was never meant to be protected. Just like Krystal Evans was not meant to be protected. The system is working exactly as it's meant to. And the reason why it angers me is because while the system is doing its job, we're sitting here hoping, debating, bargaining that maybe the system can be better. Maybe the system can be better. Maybe it can do better for the population. It doesn't want to do better. And the sooner we come to grips with that realization, the better off we will be. And society, let's be clear, society is us. If society has failed Krystal Evans and Sonia Massey, it's because we have failed as people. It's because we want to be entertained rather than educated. It's because we want to be given hope rather than given the truth. It's for that reason why the events of Krystal Evans and Krystal Evans and Sonia Massey, instead of being understood as one cohesive whole that is actually endangering people and endangering humanity as a whole, people want to compartmentalize it. Why? Because it suits their rationality and it suits their cognitive thinking, so they don't have to deal with cognitive dissonance. You see, people will prioritize hope over the truth, and they'll prioritize being entertained over being educated. Even with people who claim to care about being educated, prioritize being entertained over being educated. And people keep dying because of it. People keep dying because of it. People are being murdered because of it. People are being abused because of it. I thank Spirit every fucking day that I'm on this planet and that I'm still alive to even talk about this shit. Because just like that woman, like, repeatedly made it public that she was in fear of her life, just like I have. I thank Spirit every fucking day. Because I did the exact same thing that she did. And the reason why that perps have to be careful when they're gang stalking me is because I won't fucking shut up. I won't fucking shut up. And that, to this point, that is what's led me to this point in time where I can make a video like this. Is because I refuse to fucking shut up about the abuse. And if I have to make it a part of my branding as Empress Justice, then I'm gonna fucking do that too. I'm not shutting up until it stops. It's as simple as that. And the thing that really hurts me is that Krystal Evans did that too. She refused to shut up. She did exactly the right thing. And she had friends around her trying to rely on the police. Like quite frankly, why was everybody relying on the police to begin with? Why did the community not step in and handle this dude? Why were you relying on the police to get it done? Somebody should have stepped in and handled this dude. He's one guy. You can't step in and handle him. You can't step in and protect that woman. What is going on over there? What is going on in this world? Where a woman can be killed off like this and all her friends are lamenting, oh, you know, the police did nothing. Well, you knew the police weren't going to do anything. So why didn't you step in and handle the situation and make sure the police were, you know, were none the wiser? Why didn't you do that? There are 1,000,001 things we can do to protect each other. That doesn't rely on revolve around relying on privatized police. Are you fucking kidding me? But again, people can't take the whole truth. They have to take everything in sections. Take everything in sections. Take everything in sections. And in the meantime, people are fucking dying. What is it going to take before people wake up? What is it going to take before people wake up? I'm asking. Update on me with regards to gang stalking. It's almost not worth talking about because it's just little mind games. So, for example, there was a mat outside that both I use and the neighbors use, and what they've taken to doing is, because I put like one particular mat outside my front door or near it, what they do is they wipe their feet on the mat when it's outside my door. So when it's out, it's so stupid, I can't believe I'm talking about this. Okay, so they wipe their feet outside my door oh God, I can't even talk about it and take it seriously now. So they wipe their feet outside my door because they think it's going to upset me because it's outside my door. So I'm thinking, okay, this is annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that mat that's for the public, that's for everybody, outside their door, and we're just going to leave it there. So if they need to wipe their feet, they can wipe their feet outside their door and leave mine alone, leave my doorstep alone, right? So they went out after they did that nonsense, came back after I put that mat in front of their door. Suddenly I hear, what the fuck? Like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever heard of. I can't even believe that it's stupid. And, you know, it's like they were going out of their way to try to get to me and stuff like that. And today, there was like noise pollution from upstairs, but because I'm so used to it, it's just, you know, I just listen to my own shit and I just get on with what I have to do because I'm used to it at this point. When it comes to the pipes are fixed. The pipes are cast iron. So what happens is that because they're cast iron and because the pipes are so old, they can't take a lot being put down the toilet at one time. And they certainly can't take any plastic blocking it up. So I know what to do now. I know how to handle the situation. And if the toilet gets blocked again, then I'll definitely know why, right? So yeah, that, you know, Aquatech came over, did their thing. They unblocked everything. Hopefully what will happen is that, you know, there's a pipe that's burst underneath me, in a garage underneath me, that's directly connected to my bathroom. What I'm hoping is that that will be fixed as well. But what's causing the problem is that there's flooding and, oh shit, it's 5%. What's causing the problem is that there's flooding and nothing's really being done about the flooding. I think it's something to do with the mesh roof or something that actually prevents flooding from rainwater, because we do get a lot of rain down here, and because our roofs have no protection, they can affect our waterworks quite easily, and it can especially affect the waterworks below me. So hopefully the pipes will be fixed and hopefully, you know, we can get some protection for the roof. But like, I'm doubtful. Like, Brighton is on a whole, like, you get so many Londoners and so many fucking capitalists coming down here and buying up properties and not looking after them properly because they're greedy and they think that fucking properties are free money. So you've got so many capitalists coming to the coast, buying up properties and just not looking after the properties properly. You do get the same thing in London, but like, you know, it's a bit more pronounced in Brighton because the wealth gap is wider here. So yeah, it just causes problems, but hopefully there will be some protection for the roof, and hopefully the gentleman downstairs will get his pipe fixed. Quite frankly, this one down here, this neighbor down here, whose garage is down here, he has been very patient. He's been way more patient than I would have been. Because this motherfucker gets up at about what? He must get up at around 2 in the morning to drive around cabs from 4 o'clock in the fucking morning. And then on top of that, he's got a fucking Indian restaurant to run. So this man is a full-time entrepreneur and a full-time like cabbie. This guy works his ass off, and he is a lot more patient than I would be in that situation. So hopefully they can solve the problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? This man works hard, boy. If it was me, I would kick off. I've kicked off over less than that. So hopefully he can get everything fixed, you know, hopefully. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense when it comes to me. I've been attacked at specific areas of my body. There are marks here, and it seems like the lasers have an entry and exit wound. So it's like there's 2 points here, and there's 1 point right here. So it's like the entry point is here and the exit point is here, something like that. I feel like that's how the laser weapons actually work. Do you understand what I mean? So I've got marks like all on my face. I've got marks on my body from where the weapons have hit. I've got one really bad one on my back. What they look like when you're cooking and it's like your skin bursts when there's hot oil landing on your skin. That's what these marks look like. But it's weapons that are actually causing this. And I've been fired on my head a lot. It's kind of the favorite place of electronic torturers to fire, because if they fire on my head, then I'm less articulate and I'm less able to explain myself properly. That's where they like to fire the most. They like to fire on my head. So they've been doing that. They've been firing on my heart a lot, firing on my chest. As you can hear, I haven't been coughing at all, which lets you know that the coughing was induced. As you can hear, like, my throat is really dehydrated. So yeah, there's a lot going on over here. But when it comes to the gang stalking itself, it's just light stuff. It's like noise pollution. The children in particular up there are upset because I'm not reacting and I'm not responding to what they're doing. But my response to that is that, again, it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years of the same thing. It's been 3 years of the same shit. And as much as they do annoy me, and as much as they do get to me, I have to wonder, it is 3 years in November since they first started this. This is a genuine question that I want to repeat. I don't know if I've spoken to you guys about this before with regards to bins and stuff like that. But the question that I have on my mind, after 3 years of this harassment, after 3 years of trying to get to me, my thing is this, is that you've already gotten to me several times. You've already gotten me to rant. You've already gotten me to do everything under the sun. I'm going to repeat the question. What are you trying to achieve out of the harassment? You want to make me upset, then what? What do you want the upset to lead to? What is the end goal of you doing this for 3 years? What is the end goal of this? What do you want? What do you want the outcome to be? If you get me upset, what do you want the outcome to be? What is the long-term goal that you're trying to accomplish here? What is it that you want? What is it that you actually want? Because it just seems like after 3 years, it just seems like you harassing black people is just who you are at this point, and you don't know any other way to be. And it's not just the children, it's, you know, it's the adults to a lesser extent too. It just seems like harassing me is just your personality now. It seems like your whole identity revolves around how I feel. And I've gotten that from other gotten that from other perps as well. Perps seem to revolve their whole personality around how their victims actually feel about them. It seems like they don't really have an identity of their own. They don't really have any hopes or dreams or goals of their own. If they clean anything up, it's because I cleaned it. If they start singing, it's because I sang. If they start playing loud music, it's because I did it first. If they start thinking about, you know, psychic readings and things like that, it's because I did it. Like, who are you when you're not harassing me? Do you even have a sense of self anymore? Do you even know what you want? Do you have a sense of self, or is this just your life now? Because even though I'm a targeted individual, after years, like after a good decade, like almost a decade of talking about gang stalking, I've got another channel. I've got 2 other channels talking about psychic readings and occult stuff. I have an identity and I have a life outside of targeting, even though targeting, you know, even though the gang stalkers tried so hard for me not to have that. I have an identity outside of gang stalking. Do the perps have an identity outside of just bothering me? I don't think they do anymore. I don't think they know who they are. I think at this point, without harassing the big black woman, they have no sense of self and they have no reason to live. I think angering me is the only thing that's keeping them from just at this point. It sounds harsh, but I genuinely think with some perps that the only thing that stops them killing themselves is causing me pain. I think that's you know, now that I look back, I think that's a lot of people. I think causing me pain or being merciless or awful to annoying people, like I feel like if they didn't do that, they just off themselves. That's what I feel like. So I'm trying to understand, what are you trying to get out of 3 years of harassment? What are you trying to get out of it? What's the long-term goal? Is it so that I can kill myself? Again, if I did that, where would you be? Nowhere. You'd have no sense of self. You'd have no sense of who you're supposed to be. You'd have nothing without harassment at this point. I'm convinced. And truth be told, I'm being really, really harsh about everybody, you know, everybody related to perps or gang stalking. I'm being harsh with everyone right now. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to kids, their flaws are the failures of the parents. So who are these people without trying to make me miserable, without trying to, you know, without trying to destiny swap with me or trying to fucking copy everything that I do? Who are they without that? Do they have an identity? Or do they have a goal for trying to upset me all the time? Is there a long-term goal to this? That's all I want to know. That is all I want to know. I don't think the perps know what they want. I don't think they know. I honestly don't think they know anymore. I think this is their lives. Torturing other people. That's the only reason they have to live. Anyway, I gotta go. And I want to leave on this reminder for everybody. When women are gang stalked to death, or in Krystal Evans's case, domestically abused to death, I want you guys to remember that this system didn't fail us. This system was working exactly as it's meant to. The question is now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to create a system that doesn't do that to people? I'm already working on my shit as we speak. I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about what my solutions are. Because at the end of the day, the whole reason why I'm asking these questions is not so that you can fucking tell me. It's so that you can think to yourself, how can I create a society that doesn't thrive on the abuse of people, period? That's why I want to leave you with that question. Don't tell me what your solutions are. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, the second you start telling me and the second you start telling people is the second your plans fail. If you have a plan to make sure that people do not get abused and trafficked, and that trafficking and abuse does not sustain our society, if you have a plan for that, keep it to yourself and implement it. I don't want to know, and I don't care. Get it done. So anyway, if you've made it to this far in the video, if you're a fellow TI, let me know how you guys are doing. I always want to know. And yeah, this was a difficult one today. I don't even know if I made sense all the way, because the brain fog is so fucking pronounced with this Havana syndrome shit. I don't even know if I strung sentences together that made a lick of sense. But I guess we'll see when this video is uploaded. I love you guys. Peace and blessings. Take care. Bye-bye now.